I am Dave McBride, the junior class president, and during this first quarter, the junior class has been reflecting on whether or not who tells a story matters. We have been comparing and contrasting different people's perspectives of reservation life. We analyzed music videos, newspaper articles, and a poem I wrote called I See Hope.
When I was younger, I read a story about Native Americans, and it just so happened it was about my tribe, Ogallala. It was written by a non-native, and I just couldn't understand how someone could be so ruthless, racial, and just flat out mean towards natives. Ever since that day, it always mattered to me about who wrote or told the story. I learned everyone has their own opinions or their side of the story.
A lot of negative information comes from people that aren't from the reservation. Some people say that we are really poor and are hopeless people. Some even say we do anything for drugs and alcohol. In an article written for the New York Times journalist Nicholas Kristof writes, "Poverty in the U.S., even the reservations, is so entrenched because it is often part of a toxic brew of alcohol or drug dependencies." So basically he's saying that we depend on drugs and alcohol. There's a lot of happiness and hope for us who live on the reservation. There's a lot of things we do that doesn't involve drugs and alcohol. Some of the adults and the children are being successful. Yeah, there are things that happens to us that aren't positive, but we still see hope for us.
In my poem, I talk about my perspective and give a completely different understanding of reservation lifestyle. I talk about inspiration, motivation, and perseverance to succeed in everyday reservation life. Despite the opportunities we natives lack, I proudly say, I can see hundreds upon thousands of smart and strong young indigenous men and women with every characteristic to excel. I can see them chasing their dreams as if they were chasing the buffaloes our ancestors once had. I see all my fellow peers natives everywhere making an impact and amounting to something incredibly good.
Who tells a story matters because everybody's ideological perspective is not the same. We see things differently and feel differently about them.
When someone who hasn't lived on a reservation or grew up here tells a story, they only focus on the negative. They only know half our story. They only see how bad we are. Like Kristof said, 2/3 of adults may be alcoholics. Also, less than 10% of children graduate. Yes, that may be true, but what he doesn't know is that there are adults out there trying to overcome the alcohol addictions. There are also children who go to school whose main goal is to graduate and break that stereotype.
The author of the story determines what the reader sees and not sees while they are reading the story. For example, in Dave's poem, he explains more of the positive things that happen on any of these reservations. He explains, I see a dream, a goal they want to pursue. Whether it's a short or long-term goal, I can see them affecting and making an impact on the future. He chooses to focus on the positive things instead of the negative. Dave does acknowledge the fact that there are some negative things in this poem, but does not focus on them. For example, I see sadness and depression killing them softly. So softly and slowly it's eating up like a disease, but as I look closer at them, I see hope.
I think Dave tells a story that matters because he talks about our culture, unlike some people who seem to only focus on the bad and who has never lived on the res. They don't fully know our lives, and all they want to see is the worst part of the res to try to make the news.
The reason why it matters who tells the story is it's easy for anyone to only see and talk about the negative, and nobody takes the time to look up the positive. You don't get the full outlook, you don't get all the details, facts, and reasons why, and that's where words get left out. It's extremely easy to be biased, and I suggest you get all facts, details, negative and positive reasons when you tell a story. Otherwise, it's just gossip.
I prefer hearing a story from someone who has seen or witnessed the things being described in the story firsthand. In this case, Dave's poem, he talks about the life he's lived here on the reservation and knows what it's like, the good and the bad.
Kristof wrote a negatively one-sided story of reservation life, which gave readers a myopic view of the reservation. In my poem, I tried to allow people to see the full picture of life on the reservation, both the negative and positive. Despite all the adversity we face in life, I see Native Americans making an impact in the future on their communities and on this country.
My name is Danny Rowan Torres, aka Miss Ogallala Nation, and I approve this message.